Today, the topic is which AI is best. And this is subject to a lot of opinions by a lot of people. I probably have a bias myself, but I'm going to try and be a little bit more impartial if I can with you as I go through them. And we're going to take a look at the choices that you have for AI, and there are just so many that are coming out. It could be confusing for a lot of people. Which AI do I use? Why is this one better than others? You get advice from friends, people, YouTube, people that specialize in AI, and there's just a tremendous amount. Catering to our audience, are more adults that are casual computer users. We're interested in technology. So we'd like to know things about the common features in AI between the different ones. And we'll take a look at some demonstrations, and we'll talk a little bit about where they fit. But today's focus is primarily on generative text. There are differences in how the AIs handle generating images, but today we're going to kind of focus a little bit more on generative text because that's what most people probably use it for. So let's take a look at the major choices. There's ChatGPT, which is made by OpenAI. There is Gemini, which is Google's AI tool. There's Meta AI, which is Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. There's Claude by a company called Anthropic, which has a lot of Amazon funding in them. There's another tool out there, a startup called Perplexity, that's become popular for a particular focus on search. There's Microsoft's Copilot, which is integrated into their Edge web browser and into their apps. And then there's Apple Intelligence. So there's just a lot of choices. And the question is, which one's going to be best? Not overall in terms of this has got to be the best one absolutely used, but which is best for you primarily. Now, I want to mention a little bit about DeepSeek. You've heard about DeepSeek. It's a Chinese developed AI. If you use the DeepSeek website or the DeepSeek app and you download it to your Android, there is a privacy and security risk. And I haven't found anybody that recommends using DeepSeek by using their website. Everything you share with an AI is taken by the AI and use their model, and the DeepSeek's privacy policies are governed by their policies in China, not by their policies in the United States. But this morning, I found out that a AI tool, one of the tools we'll look at, Perplexity, actually lets you use DeepSeek through Perplexity, which is a completely safe and secure US-based only way to use it. So we'll take a look at that. But I just wanted to mention DeepSeek. They came out with something that shook up the stock market, and it had to do with the difference between generative AI and reasoning AI. Generative AI lets you create text or images, and it's great for research and analysis of information and answering questions. Reasoning solves problems and it shows the thinking. And I've got a question that I created about how much money would I save if I switched out 560-watt light bulbs with LEDs, and I use them an average of 3 hours a day. And we'll take a look and see how, if we can get Perplexity with DeepSeek to show us that reasoning. Now, other AI tools have reasoning as well. It's not like they've been asleep. They have been coming up with reasoning, just that you may not need that much in terms of reasoning. We tend to use generative AI much more than anything else. There's a lot of other AI options. You're seeing every application, every service, everything, from Canva graphic design. Adobe has AI very focused on graphics. You're seeing business apps come out from IBM and Watson, and call center tools and transcription. So it's not like there's just the major ones, but we're going to focus on some of the major ones today. Now, I did some research and I came up with what's in common with most of them. And what's in common is you enter a prompt, you type in some text, or you can copy and paste it, and you get a response. That's how AI works. It's like a chat. You're not chatting with a person, you're chatting with the AI. And so you can have a dialogue that goes back and forth with the AI. And they all do that. They all do that. They all do it really, really pretty good. Now, there's more things in common. Most of them have a mobile app. Most of them have a website. Most of them have a desktop app. There might be one or two exceptions for this, but for the most part, you can get ChatGPT, you can get Claude, you can get Perplexity, and all these others. And Meta is actually integrated into some Facebook and WhatsApp tools as well. So there's all you can get to them through any kind of computing device you need to. And if you create an account, it saves information so that your information is similar. You can see previous chats you've had with the AI, whether you're using the website or the desktop app or the mobile app, it'll keep a history of what you're doing. There's a couple of other things in common. You may hear this term called multimodal. What that means is that with a prompt, you can type in text, but you can also upload documents that are text documents in a variety of formats. You can also upload images. And if everything works today, I'm going to show you, we'll see what happens when AI sees an image I took on vacation and what it tells us. And you can also ask AI to go out to web links. Now, I saw a video today that said Claude didn't actually have the ability to go search the web, but virtually all of the others do. And so, but if you want to be able to search the web, you want to be sure to use one of the AIs that has that capability. And searching the web means also doing things with YouTube videos as well. There's free and paid versions for all of these. The free versions have limits on use. For the average consumer user, that's never going to be much of an issue. We just don't place that many demands on AI. But if you were in a workplace or if you were using it for coding or programming or generating images for graphics, you might see a limit on your use for the day. And the free versions may not be as fast as responding as the paid versions. Usually they charge about $20 US a month. They also, on the paid versions, give you the latest and greatest technology models. A model is basically the brain of the AI, that it's trained to do certain things, it's trained to do certain types of behaviors and activities. And so if you want the latest and greatest, that's one reason to pay. Otherwise, the free versions, which is what we're going to look at, usually do very well. There are usually optional features in the paid version, and the paid versions keep track of your chats so that if you're asking an AI, I'd like to have this explained a little bit easier, and you do that multiple times, it keeps track of your chats to kind of learn what it is you prefer in your response styles and how you might want it. So that's one of the advantages of a paid. It's actually getting to know you, and we'll keep track of that. The free versions usually don't have that memory function, but the paid versions all do. The other thing that may steer you towards a particular kind of AI is how that AI is integrated into applications. Apple has Apple Intelligence, and it's integrated with the Apple applications like Pages and Keynote, Safari, a few others. Microsoft has changed their application subscription to Microsoft 365, and it's integrated with their Office apps. They're going to release an integration with OneDrive soon, and Apple will probably do that with Apple's iCloud functions. So you're getting integration with the applications of an AI that's available from within the app. So if you're a big Apple app user, you got access to Apple Intelligence right in the app. If you're an Office user, you've got access to the AI right within the app. And of course, Google Gemini is integrated into Google Apps, and it's integrated into Gmail as well as all of these others are too. And then Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, has integrated their AI so you can access it from a WhatsApp chat, ask questions, or Instagram and Facebook have some unique features for it as well. So these are all things that may steer you if you're predominantly a user of certain tools and other things like that towards a particular AI. Now, in terms of market share, I mean, ChatGPT was first. They're used by about 60% of all users that use AI, and they're considered very high quality. But Gemini and Copilot and Claude and these others are all extremely good. They're all doing a very good job keeping pace with everything that's coming out. They're all trying to come out with one feature that kind of puts them ahead of the others, but they're all really good. They all have big investments in their development and what they're doing. Now, one note about Apple, if you want to compose text in Apple, you will end up using ChatGPT. They have a partnership with ChatGPT so that if you activate the compose function in your Apple Intelligence, it doesn't use Apple Intelligence, it goes out to ChatGPT. And if you have an account with ChatGPT, whether it's free or paid, it'll actually keep track of what you've done in Apple Intelligence as well. So that's an advantage. And they've actually set it up so that they can integrate with future AI tools as well, not just ChatGPT if they want to in the future. So that's a little bit of an overview of what they look like. But what really helps, I think, is when you can take a look and see what's happening with these chat functions and how they're working. I'm going to take my Chrome browser here and share that. And I'm going to move just something around a little bit here so it's easier for me to see a few things. And I have a little set of text prompts here that I've got. And what I've got set up in my browser is I've got in a new message in Google, Gmail, my Gemini, my ChatGPT, Claude, Meta AI, Perplexity, and I've got a couple of articles and other things that I link to as well. So what I'm going to do is take Gemini here, and I'm going to take a prompt. I was helping somebody with gardening, and they said, "What do I need to do to take care of a snake plant?" You'll see these prompts here. You'll see typically a drop-down model for experimental things and things you can try. You can upgrade to something more. You'll see a history of your chats, and but basically this chat box here is where you want to type in or cut and paste a prompt. So I'm going to say, tell me how to take care of a snake plant, and we're going to see how the different AIs respond to that. So let's take Gemini first, and this is a pretty fast response we get typically. So it tells me a little commentary here. It's a great choice for beginners, and it put the record here on the left so I can go back and view it. It shows light, watering. It has a little drop down. I can learn more if I want to, and check soil, temperature, fertilizing, repotting, common problems, tips for success. And it gave me some sources here as well. So one of the things with Google, because it's integrated with other tools, is that they have a share and export function where I can make this a draft in Gmail right away, or I can export it to Docs, or I can share a link to this conversation with other people. So that's Google's response. Really good response, nice one. Okay, so let's go to ChatGPT, and I will paste this in, and we'll get a response. And we'll see how it works. So tells me a little bit about easy to take care of, light requirements, watering, soil and potting, temperature and humidity, fertilizing, cleaning and pruning, propagation, common problems, air purification, a few other things. So again, I can share this, copy and paste it, and use it in a variety of other locations. So let's take Claude. Claude is a really good AI. And a lot of these AIs make their services available to consumers, but they also make their services available to organizations and businesses that want to integrate AI with an existing application. So again, we have a chat. Claude is focusing on writing styles a lot, so that if you want to tailor your writing style and other types of tools, you can work with it. But let's see what Claude does in terms of taking care of a snake plant. And we're seeing similar answers: light, water, temperature, humidity, problems to watch for. You can copy and paste this if you want to. You can carry on other discussions. Let's try Meta. Now, if you're getting the point that a lot of these are giving us similar responses, that's good, because for a lot of everyday uses, we're going to get pretty decent responses for what we might want to do with them. And so there's some interesting approaches. So let's ask a new thread here in Perplexity, and we'll say, how do I take care of it? Perplexity now has the ability for you to use reasoning with DeepSeek's R1 model, hosted in the United States. And they also have a connection to OpenAI. So they only have, but they give you a quota of 4 enhanced queries a day, but auto, you can get quite a bit more. So Perplexity will give us a list of sources. They give us some nice images here that we can look at. They talk about watering, soil, temperature, maintenance, propagation, but they also suggest some related ideas here that you might be interested in looking at too. So that's a relatively simple prompt, a relatively approachable one, and one we can take a look at. Now, I'm going to go back to Gemini here, and I'm going to start a new chat. Whenever you want to start a new chat, you just click on the new chat button. And I'm going to ask these AIs to create a 6-day itinerary. I'll actually change this to 3 days so it won't be as long, and it'll give us some faster response. I want to be able to travel, and it'll do, corrected, but I want to travel in Spain for adventure traveling, starting in Barcelona, and it'll give me a response here. So it creates an itinerary right away: morning, midday, afternoon. So you can use AI for planning here as well, and things they recommend. Let's go to ChatGPT, start a new chat, try it as well, and see what this comes up with. And so it's going to give us something. It's going to give us 6 days, all right? Explore and bike the city. I didn't change it to 3 when I cut and pasted. Sorry about that. So it'll give us a daily itinerary for everything we might be interested in doing all the way along and everywhere we might want to go. But remember, I asked for adventure. You could ask it for historical, you could ask it for museums, you could ask it for dining, you could ask it for entertainment, you could ask it for culture, and it would give you an itinerary geared towards your request as well. So it gives a really good response for all of these. Again, in Claude, we want to go to a new chat. So let's create a new chat here in Claude and start a new one. And we'll do the same thing. As you can see, they're all really pretty good at doing these kinds of tasks. So now, here's a situation that you might run into with an AI if you're using it for free. Due to unexpected capacity constraints, Claude is unable to respond to your message. Please try again soon or consider upgrading to Claude Pro. Okay, so it's busy and they have a certain amount of responses. I can try waiting and clicking again on it, and maybe it'll start a response. And now, so it just sometimes temporarily waiting is a good way to take a look at it and try and do that. But it gives us a pretty good itinerary. Now, it didn't really specify out the morning and at midday and afternoon time frames. It gave me it's kind of a general frame of what to do, but didn't give me too many times. But if I go to Meta and I start a new conversation and I do the same thing, it'll give me a very similar, itinerary: morning, afternoon, evening. And what, you could save these to a document, print them out, or share them with people if you want to. And then Perplexity will also do the same thing and give us a similar response. So there's some types of things that are pretty similar. I mean, so which you're using may or may not make a whole lot of difference. But let's take a look at something else here. Let's go switch to my Edge browser here. And I'm just going to go to a new tab here. And in Edge, Copilot's integrated into the Edge browser with a button in the upper right. So I can message Copilot and ask it to do exactly the same thing I've been asking these other AIs to do, and it'll do it right from within the Edge browser itself. So it's going to give me some information. Now, it may or may not have been focused on adventure tour as much, but it's going to give me some things, and it gave me a reference to another website that I can look at. So you'll see sometimes a little bit of integration like this Copilot button, and I can say, well, I want to start a new chat or I'd like to do something. You always talk to your AI. There's connections to microphones where you can say, I'd like to talk, to you, and all of them have that capability as well. Now, you can also write stories. So I had AI write a little fictional story for me. And if you're going to write fiction, it usually works better to work directly in a website function. So here's Gemini, and I'm going to ask it to write I'll change this to 500 words, so and I wanted to write a fictional story of 500 words for a fifth grade class about a gopher who gets lost and finally finds her family. Okay, so it's going to write a story here and it'll knock it out pretty quickly. It makes up everything. So if you need a bedtime story for your kids or a little adventure for something, you can get that. They named it Gilda the Lost Gopher, right? If you want it shorter, you can ask for shorter with all of these. If I go to ChatGPT and I do the same thing, we'll see what kind of a name it gives the gopher. Gretchen, the gopher's great adventure. Okay, so it creates another gopher story. Okay, so you could make it a rabbit, a gopher, a deer, whatever you feel like doing, and you can choose what you want. So you can have stories written about things, complete fiction, and it'll create it. Now, of course, you can change the style of what you want to do as well. I'm going to go to Meta AI and do a new conversation and ask it to write a story about Gwendolyn the gopher. Okay, so you can see how these AIs are coming up with different things. So but it's really easy to get these types of things taken care of. Now, one of the things I did was I wanted to know how much money I would save if I switched from using incandescent bulbs with LEDs, okay? And I say I use these about 5 hours a day and check with current electrical rates, okay? And I want to know how much am I going to save and how much would I save in a year? Man, that's a question, you might want to ask an AI and see if it's going to make sense or not. So I'm going to copy this, save it for other chat. Okay, so let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so it's thinking, it's giving me a response. It's going to tell me a little bit about how it's going to calculate the rate, and how LED bulbs work, finding your rate. Let's assume an average rate of 15 cents per kilowatt hour. It's going to calculate the annual cost, showing me a little bit of the math. It's going to calculate the savings. So it's going to result in a savings of 68.44 per year as an estimate. It's going to say it's an estimate, okay? So another way to do it. So it's interesting how it can come up with that answer. And so you can ask AIs to solve problems for you and that you might not normally think about. You're saying, gee, I wonder how much we could do. And it'll start explaining these things. This is using a little bit of the reasoning function of the AI. and how now this one came up with 155 annually because it actually knows that I'm in Southern California, Edison's, and their average rate is 32.5. So if you know your rate, you can really get a lot different. Now, in Perplexity, Perplexity has this reasoning model. And what it's going to do is it's going to give us a little bit of information in a different fashion. So it's reasoning with R1. So it's telling me what it's doing as it goes along and where it's getting the source and how it's doing the reasoning, how it's doing the thinking. So even though some of the others were doing it, and it's going to explain how it does it step by step. Okay. The tricky part is the electricity result. Okay. And it's telling me these things about it, what it's doing, how it's using a rate, and it's giving a much more of an explanation of how it's solving the problem. And it actually created a little program that runs the code for you and figures out the rate. And so it shows you what it's calculating. And in conclusion, what we would save 77.56 per year. And it shows me all of the math, but it showed the thinking of the AI as I was going through it. And that's what reasoning tends to do. Okay, so now in the other things you can do is you can drag a picture. I'm going to drag a picture from my desktop over here into Ask Gemini. And you can drag pictures. And I say, tell me about this location and where it was taken. I mean, I don't know if you have photos in your library or in your collection of photos and say, gee, I wonder where that was taken, right? I happen to know where this was taken, but I wanted to show you what'll happen. You can actually drag an image as part of the prompt, and let's see what Gemini comes back with. And it'll explain a lot about it. So it can only extract the text and some objects and public figures. I'm not a public figure, but this is actually landscape arch located in Arches National Park, Utah. It figured that out from the image. Where it's located has me a little information. I can ask it more information about it. And so you'll find that they're all pretty good at doing that. I'm going to drag this picture over to here and I will say, tell me about this location and we'll see what it says. And it should come up with the same result. So they're gonna, come. It appears to be Arches National Park, and the arch in the background resembles Broken or Skyline Arch. It wasn't quite sure which one it was, so I could get more details about it. Gemini knew it was Landscape Arch right away, whereas ChatGPT thought it could be, one of these typically Broken or Skyline. So that's where sometimes one of the AIs will do a better job than another. Let's try and see if Perplexity will let me do this with a photo. And you can drop a file or a photo, but Perplexity wants me to upgrade if I want to do more with it. Okay, so let me go with a new thread and try and ask this and I go continue with free. I only get so many follow-ups a day with Perplexity. So the Gemini and Meta will tend to give you more information. So if I drag this over to Meta, it will upload the file. Meta can analyze photos, including features, facial features. So I said, let's see, where is this photo taken? And we'll see what Meta comes up with if it recognizes where. It's Arches National Park, so it doesn't tell me much more about it. Okay, so you can see how there's a little variation on the AIs in terms of what it's doing. Now, one of the things you can do also is you can upload a document. So I've got a article that I wrote, and it's a docx. You can upload PDFs, other formats, and I say summarize I don't want to read the whole article. I'll say summarize this in less than 100 words. Okay. And so you can upload a document or more than one document to it. And I say, okay, what's the summary here? Okay, so here's a quick summary. Nice, nice, kind of created what it said. This was a chip article I wrote on my website. Let's go to ChatGPT and I'll drag the article in from my desk. It says add anything, add any file, and I'll ask it to summarize this in less than 100 words. And I could actually upload multiple documents and get some information about it, but it's going to create a pretty good summary of this. And if I go to something like Meta and I start a new conversation, I drag the document here, uploads the files. It says unsupported file type. Interesting. So sometimes you may find that this is a Microsoft Word file, so it may only support something like a PDF or something like that. The other thing you could do, and one of the last things I want to show you is I take my videos and I edit them down for YouTube. So I want to say, if I can, you summarize this YouTube video, and I'm going to give it a link to the YouTube video. Okay. And we'll see if it can go do it. So usually it's gonna give me a summary of this whole video. Now, YouTube transcribes the videos, okay? And so you don't have to rely on the AI to do the transcription. And most AIs won't necessarily do it, but some of them can. So here's a video, okay? And so it asked me, this looks like a video. Do you want me to summarize it? Yeah, so summarize, okay. And I'll ask it to summarize it. And so it can't watch videos, but if you can summarize or if you can explain home routers in general, can you? So sometimes it'll work things out. But Gemini, being part of Google, has access to the transcripts where not every AI may have that. So you might end up using one or another AI. Now I'll do one more thing here. Let me share pages if I've got here in Apple. In Apple, how do I take care of a snake plant? That was my prompt here in pages. When you don't have any text, I'm going to cut this. Okay. You won't get access to the writing tools in Apple apps. When you have a text, I pasted the wrong thing. Well, let's say, how do you take care of a snake plant? Okay. And I want to use the writing tools. If I click on writing tools, it'll pop up a little window here. And because I've set up Apple Intelligence to work with ChatGPT, I can click on Compose, and I wanted to write how to take care of a snake plant. Okay. It'll compose it. But it's actually using ChatGPT to compose it. And so here's the summary. I can say I want to replace all this text by clicking replace, and it's put everything in here. Now, another way you can use Chat AI for doing things is you can use it with tools like PowerPoint. So I've had this PowerPoint presentation that I gave you today, and if I share it, I have Microsoft's 365 subscription. They've changed it from Office 365 to just 365. This is actually the slides I use today. And I'm going to click on Copilot. I have a Copilot link in the application. And I can ask it to create an image. This actual image I use here, that was created while I was doing this. But I'd say, let's see, summarize this presentation, and I'll see if it can summarize it for me and generate a response for it and what it does. So here's the summary. Here's a summary of the deck: meeting etiquette, AI focus, common features, multimodal prompts, free versus paid. And so it has, the summarize. Now it gives you credit balance, but I haven't run across that limit yet. So you can see how Copilot, Apple Intelligence, Google, our apps are integrated into things like Gemini and other tools like that that make it possible for you to do things within the app. Now, which one's best? Well, I've been using ChatGPT since they announced it over a year ago, and I'm just comfortable using it. You get used to using an application, and learning a new one, is different. And so I decided to upgrade from the free plan to the pro plan because I use it for writing articles, I use it for doing research, I use it for answering questions on technology and other things like that. And so for me, it was worth the $20 a month upgrade to the Pro plan. But I've been using a Copilot within PowerPoint and Word to do some things. And I haven't been writing too much in Apple Pages, but I've been using it in Safari to get summaries of web pages as well. So it's not like they're all going to really be a problem. I know some of you use Meta, some of you might use Claude, some might use Perplexity, but they're all really good in terms of the daily uses. But you may find that as you start to want to do more types of things with your AI, that one seems to give you the responses you want better. It's like finding an employee and working with it. And so if you have an employee and you like what they do, you keep them on and you give them a promotion and you pay them more money. If you have another employee and you give them the same assignment, but they don't do it quite the way you want it. And that's a good way to think about AI. So if you're used to using one, you don't really have to go out and learn how to use a whole nother one. And the advantage of things like Apple Intelligence, it's free, it's integrated with Apple. If you've got a Microsoft 365 subscription, it's included with that. And so you've got some advantages there.